The story of Hatshepsut, the badass queen-turned-Pharaoh, is as intriguing as it is daring. For a civilization that revered its patriarchs, it was going to be one heck of a ride for our heroine, or should I say, hero. But how did she turn from queen to king in the first place? Hello and welcome to our channel, where we tell historical tales in a fun and entertaining way so you don't get bored. In today's episode, we explore why Hatshepsut was a badass pharaoh. Stay with us until the end so you can find out just exactly how badass she was. We begin straight away by addressing how she defied all odds to become a pharaoh, a position reserved strictly for men. It was 1479 BC, and Queen Hatshepsut's co-ruler, Pharaoh Thutmose II, had just passed away, meaning she was next in line, right? Wrong. Hatshepsut couldn't become pharaoh because she was a woman. Yes, I hear you all booing in the back row. However, let me explain. You see, the title pharaoh was the sole prerogative of men. This was so the throne would naturally be passed on to her stepson Thutmose III, who was just 2 years old. Now, obviously, since her stepson was too young to rule, the position of total and complete authority was temporarily passed on to Hatshepsut until Thutmose III was of age. As a regent, Hatshepsut enjoyed all the rights and privileges that came with her new position. She was literally worshipped by her subjects and was ascribed certain powers that only the king could have and exercise. During this time, she would play second fiddle to no one and always had the final say. Her words were sacred, and so was the ground she walked on. As you can imagine, this felt quite different from playing second banana in her previous queenly role, the one she had become accustomed to under Thutmose II. However, Hatshepsut couldn't fully enjoy the role, for there was an inkling in the back of her mind, a concern that gave her sleepless nights, for she knew that one day she would wake up and all this would be over. The worship, the power, the acclamations, and the authority. You know, all the things every Kardashian wants. All this would vanish in an instant when Thutmose came of age. So, she hatched a plan to hold on to power. But unlike some sneaky women whose names I won't mention, like Cleopatra, who adopted seductive means to wrestle power, Hatshepsut employed a more subtle and nuanced strategy. During her time as a regent, she made sure she got into the good books of everyone she came into contact with, starting from the top officials. She managed the economy astutely, ensuring that the resources were evenly distributed and used judiciously. She improved the kingdom's infrastructure, building huge projects in Upper and Lower Egypt, ensuring that her people had jobs. She also brought stability by pursuing foreign policies that brought peace to Egypt and the sub-region. So, when Hatshepsut finally proposed the idea of being made pharaoh along Thutmose III, the council could see this woman knew her stuff. She wasn't just some fat princess lying about scoffing chocolates. She had proven to be a brilliant leader, and there was no question in the council's mind when it came to granting her request. She was crowned pharaoh of Egypt alongside her stepson. Her dreams had finally come true. However, like Oliver Twist, she wanted more. She wanted to be regarded as a male pharaoh and not a female one. Confused? Well, let me explain. But it will cost you a like and subscribe. So go on then, it's a small price to pay, and it does give us so much joy to know that you love us enough to click like and subscribe. And in doing so, you'll have the pleasure of knowing you're making all the difference on our channel, and we can continue creating more entertaining historical tales just for you. Thank you. Right then, now that your debt is paid, let's continue. You see, Hatshepsut wasn't the first female pharaoh. No, according to historians, there had been at least one female pharaoh who ruled in the 12th dynasty. So, there was a precedent. In principle, female pharaohs held the same power and authority as their male counterparts, but practically that wasn't the case. The male pharaohs commanded deep reverence, loyalty, and worship that the females could only dream of. Moreover, Hatshepsut's father, Thutmose I, was a very powerful and revered ruler who didn't have any biological male child. So, by positioning herself as a male pharaoh, Hatshepsut would continue her father's legacy and bloodline. However, she couldn't just announce herself as a male pharaoh when all evidence pointed to the contrary. No one would believe her, and even if they did, they'd think she'd gone bonkers. Of course, they wouldn't dare say that in her presence. That's the fastest way to lose one's head. But they would gossip and giggle behind her back. So, to convince everyone, Hatshepsut started dressing as a male pharaoh and even wore a fake beard to consolidate her appearance. At first, her advisors were stunned. What was she up to, they wondered. They may have said to one another, "Why don't you go check her into a mental asylum?" To which the other might reply, "You do it, I like keeping my head." So no one was going to dare suggest that to her. Though she heard all the palace gossip about her new appearance, she wasn't bothered. She knew exactly what she was doing. Next, she commissioned artworks depicting her in full regalia and dress of a male pharaoh, and distributed them throughout the kingdom, reinforcing her male pharaonic image. But that wasn't enough. Hatshepsut took advantage of ancient Egypt's religiosity to bolster her public perception by positioning herself as the divine chosen successor of her father, Thutmose I. By claiming divine appointment, her subjects would see her as a more dominant pharaoh than her co-ruler, Thutmose III. This would legitimize her rule in the eyes of her subjects. However, all these moves would be useless unless they translated into a better life for the ordinary citizen. She knew that regardless of the propaganda and the religious titles, the ordinary citizen wouldn't respect and adore her if their lives were miserable. So she obviously wanted to avoid that whole let them eat cake thing that Marie Antoinette said of her subjects, as that obviously went over so well. No, she implemented policies and strategies that massively improved the kingdom and the lives of her citizens. First, she boosted the economy by importing lots of valuable commodities like gold, ivory, and incense. This meant more work for the large artisan population and more money in their pockets. She then initiated several agricultural projects that ensured that the country's food basket never ran dry, regardless of the season. Knowing how religious her people were, Hatshepsut participated in religious ceremonies, offering sacrifices to the Egyptian gods for their blessings and protection. She also financially backed religious institutions that took care of the poor, aged, and other marginalized members of society. However, her kingship won't be complete without military victories of her own. So she embarked on a few successful campaigns in the land of Punt. By trampling on her enemies, she won the hearts of her subjects and cemented her legacy in the annals of history. Now she was their undisputed pharaoh. She was so enshrined in the minds and hearts of her citizens that her co-ruler, Thutmose III's presence, was hardly even felt. Her name was now on the lips of all and sundry, and her praises were heard in the marketplace and in the corridors of power. Her reign was largely peaceful and prosperous, comparable to any of the great pharaohs that came before her. Sadly, after her passing, conscious efforts were made to remove her name and legacy from the history of ancient Egypt. Many of her achievements were attributed to other pharaohs, and her images were either defaced or destroyed. But nothing could touch her heritage, as her accomplishments continue to speak centuries after her passing. Hatshepsut, your story is incredible, and in the immortal words of Charlton Heston from Disney's Hercules, you go, girl. Now, if you'd like to know about another amazing life, check out Claudius Caesar's. You can click on this video to watch his amazing journey from the most ridiculed to the most revered Roman governor, and I'll see you there. Until next time, thanks ever so much for watching.